Imagine looking into the eyes of a massive, 400-pound silverback gorilla. You might expect to see a fierce, untamed beast driven only by primal instinct. But behind the dark, expressive eyes of a gorilla named Koko, there was profound genius. Koko was not an ordinary primate living in a concrete enclosure. She was a scientific marvel who completely bridged the communication gap between species. Raised by a dedicated animal psychologist named Penny Patterson, Koko learned something impossible. She was successfully taught a modified version of American Sign Language. Koko did not just memorize a few simple hand gestures for food. She actively mastered a working vocabulary of over 1,000 distinct signs. She could understand over 2,000 spoken English words with incredible accuracy. For the first time in human history, we could literally converse with an ape. Koko could express complex emotions like happiness, sadness, frustration, and deep love. She could tell jokes, invent new words, and even describe her own dreams. The world was utterly captivated by this gentle, highly articulate giant. She proved that gorillas possess a rich, complex inner life comparable to our own. However, despite her incredible intelligence and human companions, Koko felt a deep void. She possessed a strong, undeniable maternal instinct that remained completely unfulfilled. She frequently signed the word for baby while cradling her plastic dolls, but plastic toys could never satisfy a heart as massive and warm as hers. She longed for a real, living creature to nurture and care for. For her birthday, in 1984, she made a very specific, surprising request. She did not ask for fruit, sweet treats, or new toys to play with. Koko clearly and repeatedly signed that she wanted a pet cat. Researchers were initially hesitant about giving a fragile kitten to a powerful gorilla, but they decided to grant the gentle giant her most desperate, heartfelt wish. On her birthday, researchers presented Koko with a litter of abandoned kittens. They watched with bated breath, unsure of how the massive ape would react. Koko sat perfectly still, observing the tiny, mewing creatures with absolute wonder. Slowly, with incredible tenderness, she extended her massive, leathery finger. She gently stroked a tiny, tailless gray and white tabby kitten. Out of all the kittens, this specific gray one instantly captured her heart. Koko carefully scooped the tiny feline up into her enormous, powerful hands. She held the kitten to her chest with the grace of a loving human mother. Using her sign language, she officially named her new adopted baby All Ball. She chose this name because the fluffy kitten looked like a tiny, round ball. The bond between the 400-pound gorilla and the 2-pound kitten was instantaneous. It was an incredibly beautiful, visually stunning paradox of nature. A creature strong enough to bend steel bars was showing the utmost delicate gentleness. Koko carried All Ball everywhere she went, refusing to let him out of her sight. She would lie on her back, resting the kitten softly on her stomach. She gently tickled him, groomed his fur, and played with him for hours. If anyone tried to take the kitten away, Koko would sign her strict disapproval. She treated All Ball exactly like a precious, fragile gorilla infant. The kitten, completely unafraid of his giant mother, thrived in her loving care. He would purr loudly, playfully swatting at Koko's massive, gentle fingers. The world watched this extraordinary friendship blossom through magazines and television specials. It completely shattered the harmful, terrifying stereotype of gorillas being violent monsters. Koko showed humanity the true, empathetic nature of these magnificent, endangered animals. Their quiet moments together were a pure, unadulterated display of cross-species affection. It seemed like a perfect, heartwarming fairy tale that would last for years. Unfortunately, this beautiful fairy tale was destined for a sudden, deeply tragic interruption. Just a few months after their bond formed, a terrible accident occurred. Little All Ball somehow managed to slip out of the research facility. He wandered blindly onto a nearby highway and was tragically struck by a car. The researchers were absolutely devastated, dreading the moment they had to tell Koko. Penny Patterson sat down with the gorilla and gently signed the heartbreaking news. She explained that All Ball had gone away and was never coming back. Koko's initial reaction was a quiet, stunned silence of pure disbelief. Then, the immense reality of the loss crashed down upon the gentle giant. She began to sign the words bad, sad, bad, and frown, cry, frown, sad. A few minutes later, the researchers heard a sound that broke their hearts. Koko began to let out a long, high-pitched, incredibly mournful wail. It was a sound of absolute, unmistakable grief and profound sorrow. The powerful ape sat alone in her enclosure, visibly weeping for her lost baby. She refused to eat, isolating herself in a dark corner of her room. She clutched her old plastic dolls, but they brought her absolutely no comfort. This emotional reaction was a monumental, groundbreaking moment for behavioral science. It proved beyond a doubt that grief is not an exclusively human emotion. Animals feel the agonizing sting of loss just as deeply as we do. The entire world mourned alongside the heartbroken, crying gorilla. Thousands of people sent letters and cards expressing their deepest condolences. The image of a grieving ape fundamentally changed how humanity viewed animal consciousness. Koko's tears forced us to recognize the deep emotional lives of our primate cousins. She taught us that a broken heart hurts the same across all species. But Koko's incredible capacity for love was far from being extinguished. A year after the tragic loss of Allball, researchers decided to try again. They knew that Koko's maternal heart still desperately needed a baby to love. For her next birthday, they brought her a box containing 2 new kittens. One was a playful orange tabby, and the other was a solid gray feline. Koko's eyes lit up with profound joy the moment she saw the tiny animals. She reached into the box with the same incredible, deliberate gentleness as before. She picked up the orange tabby and immediately named him Lipstick. Then, she scooped up the gray kitten, signing the name Smokey for him. Having 2 energetic kittens brought an entirely new, vibrant dynamic to her life. Her depression instantly vanished, replaced by the busy joy of motherhood. She would carry 1 kitten in each of her massive hands with extreme care. The kittens used her enormous body as a giant, furry jungle gym. They would climb up her broad back and sleep soundly on her shoulders. Koko was incredibly patient, never once showing frustration with their sharp little claws. When they wrestled too roughly, she would gently separate them with a single finger. She would sign to her researchers, proudly declaring herself a good mother. And she truly was the most loving, attentive mother those kittens could ask for. She made sure they were always warm, safe, and immaculately groomed. The healing power of these new companions completely mended Koko's broken heart. It showed her immense resilience and her endless capacity for emotional recovery. Love had successfully conquered the dark, heavy shadow of her previous grief. The world once again smiled at the beautiful images of the gorilla and her kittens. Over the years, Koko would go on to care for several other adopted feline babies. Each kitten received the exact same unconditional love and gentle protection. She proved that empathy and maternal care are truly universal languages. Koko lived a long, rich, and incredibly impactful life at the Gorilla Foundation. She communicated with humanity for over 4 decades, changing science forever. She met famous celebrities, scientists, and completely captivated everyone she encountered. But her most profound legacy is not just her impressive sign language vocabulary. Her greatest contribution was showing us the immense depth of an animal's soul. She forced humanity to look into the mirror of nature and see our own reflection. Before Koko, many scientists believed animals were simply unfeeling biological machines. They assumed only humans were capable of complex thoughts, humor, and empathy. Koko completely dismantled those arrogant assumptions with a wave of her hand. She showed us that the divide between humans and animals is an illusion. We share the same fundamental desires for love, companionship, and safety. When she cradled those kittens, she was displaying pure, unselfish kindness. Her story is a powerful reminder that true strength lies in absolute gentleness. A creature powerful enough to destroy a room chose to nurture instead. That deliberate choice is the very essence of what it means to be civilized. By loving a species so different from her own, Koko became a global ambassador. She inspired millions to care about the urgent conservation of endangered great apes. Because when people saw Koko love a kitten, they finally saw themselves. They realized that protecting gorillas is essentially protecting a piece of our own humanity. Her gentle nature single-handedly did more for conservation than any scientific paper. She bridged the massive evolutionary gap with a language of pure love. Every sign she made was a tiny window into a brilliant, beautiful mind. She was a teacher who did not use a chalkboard, but a heart. Her life was a glorious, undeniable testament to the emotional intelligence of animals. Koko fundamentally changed the world, one gentle gesture at a time. In the summer of 2018, Koko peacefully passed away in her sleep. She was 46 years old, leaving behind an absolutely monumental legacy. News of her death spread rapidly, bringing a wave of global sadness. People around the world mourned the loss of the gentle, signing giant. But the tears shed for Koko were tears of profound gratitude, not just sorrow. We were incredibly lucky to have shared the planet with such a miraculous being. Her story remains a shining, beautiful beacon in the often dark animal kingdom. It is a story that proves love is the ultimate, undeniable force of nature. It transcends biology, species, and the rigid boundaries of scientific expectation. The image of Koko cuddling her tiny kitten will live on forever in our hearts. It is the ultimate symbol of cross-species empathy and radical compassion. We must continue to honor her memory by protecting her wild cousins in Africa. The forests where gorillas live are still under constant, terrifying threat. Every time we save a gorilla, we are saving another beautiful, complex mind. We are preserving the potential for more miracles, just like Koko. Let her life serve as a constant, beautiful reminder to always choose gentleness. Let us strive to possess a heart as vast and loving as the great silverback. True humanity is measured by how we treat the smallest, most vulnerable creatures. Koko the gorilla mastered that vital lesson better than most humans ever do. She has finally returned to the great, eternal forest in the sky. Perhaps she is surrounded by all the little kittens she ever loved. The world is a much kinder, brighter place because she was in it. Her signs have faded, but her profound message of love will echo forever. Sleep well, sweet Koko, and thank you for teaching us how to love. Your beautiful, gentle spirit will never, ever be forgotten.